What's going on, everybody? Danger Rock here. Today we're going to be looking at the Spider-Man 3 Deluxe 10-inch action figure made by Hasbro in 2006. This is a really great Spider-Man figure. He came out right before Spider-Man 3 came out in theaters, so it was great to see this guy in the toy aisle because this guy is very limited and he's really unique for his time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a closer look at the figure. This was Hasbro's Deluxe figure line, and what I think is really unique about it is, obviously, it's not just Spider-Man from the movie. Not only does he have a lot of articulation, but for one of the early Hasbro figures, he's got really nice paint detail and everything. I really like the red, the blue, the silver, and the black, that if we take a look at his face sculpt right here, those lines are not just sculpted in there, they're actually painted over them, which is actually really cool. And I really like the way the silver lines came out on this figure a lot, because they're not just sculpted in there, they look like they're popping off of the figure. Like, if you actually feel them, the texture of them is like they feel like they move a little bit, like from the surface of the red to the silver over here. It's actually really nice and big detail, which is really cool. And another thing I really like is this blue. It kind of reminds me of like a metallic blue, because if you look at it closely and you feel like the texture of the blue, it's actually like really rough. And it actually reminds me more of Spider-Man's costume in the movie because of the way the blue looks, which is actually really cool. So this figure is about 10 inches tall, so it's a really nice size for a Spider-Man figure. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at his articulation. His head can fully rotate. It can hinge up and down a little, but not too much. He has an ab crunch that can rotate a full 360 as well. His arms can also fully rotate. He has elbow articulation, and his wrists, his hands do hinge up and down. They don't turn or rotate or anything. But that's really cool for like a standard action figure that you would find in the toy aisle at the time. It actually had a lot of incredible detail. His feet can kickward that far and that far back, because these are like T-jointed hips. His knees can bend. They can kick backward that far, upward that far, and he does have articulation in his feet. So no toe movement. It can only hinge up that far and down that far, but you can still get him in some really good spidery poses. He has a little bit more. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then 12 points of articulation. So that's always nice for a highly detailed figure. So what we're going to take a look at now is the back of him. I really like the way this spider on his back is sculpted in there also. What you can really see a little bit more than you can see on the front side of the figure is that if you look at the blue, you can see all those little circles and details in his blue costume. So that's really great. One thing I really love about this figure is that this was made by Hasbro and not Toy Biz, but the Toy Biz Spider-Man movie figures, they always tend to use like a darker shade of blue, which it actually looked like, I have one here for comparison, that he looks red and black and not red and blue, which is not film accurate, but this one actually really does look film accurate though, because he's a decent size and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this guy aside for a second and bring in, if you guys already watched my black costume Spider-Man review, this was also a deluxe. I think this is a 12-inch figure, because if we put the two of these side by side, their articulation is exactly the same. Their sculpts look very much similar. The only difference is the black suit Spider-Man is actually an inch or two taller, and I think that's really interesting because that was in the same line of figures. And another thing that I really like that they did is that they didn't just take this black suit and just make it the red suit, but just paint it differently. They made it completely different. If you look at the spider symbol on his chest, besides that this one here is raised a little bit higher, this is actually a completely different symbol. And also, if you take a look at the webbing on his costume, the more noticeable difference is if you look at his feet right here, you can see the webs go in completely different directions. Like, they're still, the webs still cover his entire legs and feet, but as you can see on the black costume Spider-Man, there's a lot more, I should say there's a lot bigger web pattern right there. And if we turn these guys around, you can see the spider symbol on their back is actually completely different as well, which they made it actually really accurate to the movie. What I think would have been better, in my opinion, is in the movie is actually just made it a full black costume and not included these silver lines and just made the spider symbol on his chest and back just white. But since this is a movie version and not a comic book version, I don't have a problem with it. I think it turned out just fine. I just like it better when Spider-Man's costume is completely black and not this silver and grayish color that we're seeing on the movie figures. But they're film accurate to me. They're just different sizes. So another comparison that I want to do is, because these are Spider-Man 3 figures, Hasbro had just gotten the license in 2006 to produce these. So what I have right here for comparison is a Spider-Man 2 movie figure, which was made by Toy Biz. And like I was saying earlier, the detail on this guy and the size of him is just great. He has more articulation than this guy right here because his elbows can move more, his feet can move more in different directions. And instead of just having a rotating chest, he does have an ab crunch right here. His head could tilt a lot farther down, and his hands don't just move. His wrists move, his elbows move, his hands move, and everything. The only thing about him is that he's red and black and not red and blue, which honestly I actually prefer that, but it's not really accurate to the movie. I understand they wanted to go with a darker shade of blue, but for me, this doesn't take away from this figure. This is still always one of my favorites. I really like the build of him and the way this looks, especially those eyes. I feel like that face sculpt can't be beat. That looks straight out of the film. The eye lenses are like black and silver, so I think that that's really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them behind these guys so you can see not only the height difference, but the difference in the molds of the figures. And one last comparison that we're going to do is here we have the 12-inch wisecracking Spider-Man, which came out 2 years later in 2008. Now, this guy talks and everything. He's more of like a suitable toy for kids, not much as of a collector's item, but he's pretty expensive nowadays since this came out a long time ago. If you want to find him new in good condition, he's pretty expensive. On the back you could see the lines for his battery compartment, but what we're going to do is put all these guys next to each other so you can see right off the bat a big difference in the size of the figures. Now, price point on these guys, they all go for different prices. I'm not sure what they were back in the day because I never saw these in stores, but I believe this was around like $15 to $20. But now you can search them up on eBay and they go for hundreds of dollars out of the box, and even more if they're brand new in box. So both this Spider-Man and this black costume Spider-Man are pretty expensive. That Toy Biz 2004 Spider-Man right there, it's prices are all over the place depending on condition, but I have seen them go as low as $30, $40. In box he goes for obviously a lot more, but he's still a good one to get. The Wisecracking Spider-Man, he's actually pretty cheap if you find him out of the box, but new in box he's pretty expensive. So condition means everything. These two right here are very high in price, and I can see why, because they're from the original trilogy of figures and they stand out to me and they're more unique. But my favorite, it's got to be, out of all these, it's got to be this guy right here, because the blue on him is just great, as well as the red. I like the darker red with the silver on this figure, and just looking at the spider symbol on the back, it's just great. It's a really old figure, but it's still one of the best in my opinion. So this has been my review of the Spider-Man 3 Deluxe 10-inch movie figure. If you like this video, please leave a like. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Once we reach 500 subscribers, I will be doing a collection video, so definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the next video review.